Okay, so here we are, Phase 3. This is getting the mechanics in place in Canon 3. So the first thing we need to do, according to the implementation plan, is skeleton in some methods. Let's go ahead and start off in our mechanics area.
All right, let's jump down right below Update Player.
Okay, we've got check fire.
All right, so this will be a private void check fire. All right,
Next one is going to be reset target.
All right, private void reset target. Oops, wrong line. All right.
Next one is going to be reset projectile.
Okay. Again, a private void reset projectile.
All right, now if you'd like to go ahead and set up a collision methods region.
All right, let's jump below the mechanics region. Start a new region called collision.
Methods.
Methods, yep.
Yeah.
All right, and then end that region off.
Okay, and we have check ground collision.
Okay, so private void check ground collision.
And then, of course, check air collision.
Okay, so private void check air collision.
All right, now let's go ahead and set up a region for our utility methods. Or
right.
Shall I say utility method?
All right, region utility methods. And that region.
And we have distance.
All right, so this will be private, but it returns a float, not void. So private float distance, and we're taking in 2 points, a point A, that has an O in it, point A, and a point for point B. And just
this time around, let's not return anything so that we get a great big warning when we go to build, since we're about to go steal a whole lot of code right now.
Right. And
because last time we went ahead and returned 0 and it just bit us.
So it was always colliding.
That's right. So we'll just leave this blank at the moment. Okay, so with that, now it's time for us to... Well, do you want to go ahead and grab a bunch of this code?
We could leave it blank, or we could just drop it.
It's up to you. Well, in the implementation plan, the next thing was we could either take the code at this point in time, or we could go ahead and turn our attention over to the target game item. Go ahead and set up the variable and all of that good stuff. You want to do that?
Yeah, let's jump back up to the variable section, right below where we created the player. Now let's make a game item for the target. And then it's pretty much standard procedure from here on out. We go into initialize, and we create that game item stored in target. So target is equal to new game item. From there, we need the graphic for target, so we jump down to load graphics content, and because the only thing that changes here is the word target, I'm actually going to copy the line where we loaded the player.texture and change this to target.texture is equal to content.load texture2d textures / target. Because again, if we look over to the target that we imported, there's our target.png, its asset name is target, so that lines up here.
Okay.
And from there, now update. So we jump down to update, and target is just a normal moving item, so we call target.update, just like in Canon 2.
Okay. And then, let's see, what else do we have there? Draw.
Alright, draw. Let's drop in right below player, and have our target draw. Of course, feeding it the sprite batch. Sprite batch. Very good.
Alright, very nice. So now at this point we went ahead and got reset target and check ground collision in place.
Alright, reset target. Again, this is a case where a lot of the code should be very similar to Canon 2 since everything was designed the same. So I'm going to jump over to the Canon 2 project, jump down to mechanics methods, which were already there, and there we have reset target. So let's steal all of the code for reset target. Jump into Canon 3 and paste that in. Now let's see what needs to be changed. Well, these are local variables, so all of that should be fine. All of these are our own variables. That should all work. Screen width is fine. We have a target with an origin, so I believe all of that should directly work.
Well, how nice is that?
I could try building, but distance is probably going to explode.
Yeah, because it doesn't return anything. Now, let's keep on moving. So far, so good. So the next one was, let's see, which one was it? Check ground collision.
All right, let's get check ground collision. So again, should be similar. So let's jump over to Canon 2 into the collision methods, and I will steal our check from check ground collision, move back to Canon 3, paste that check in place, and let's see. All right, this one is going to have to be addressed. What are we checking? We're looking at the actual target picture box. We don't have a target picture box anymore. We're going to have to use the target item itself. So let's look at target. We of course don't have a bottom because this is our own game item. So the closest or the best thing we have is the position. So we need to use the position. But it's not just the position because that's centered. We want this collision to go off when the bottom hits the ground. So we need to do an offset. So we need to say when the target.position.y is greater than the screen height, well, we need to put our offset in. So we'll say screen height minus target.origin.y. Because again, this position.y is going to be at the center, so we need to subtract the origin away from the screen height, so it looks like when the bottom of the target hits the screen that this goes off.
Exactly. Now we don't have a kill player.
We don't have kill player yet, so I'm going to comment this, and just so that we see the effect more quickly, let's call upon an existing mechanics method. In this case, let's call upon reset target. All right?
Okay, very nice. So that is everything for getting the game item into place. So the next thing was going to be the projectile game item, if you want to go ahead and code that one in.
Okay. Let's go back to variables and make a game item for projectile. And for the sake of less typing, I'll copy the target and change the name target to projectile. Now we can move into initialize where we're creating it. And since it is the same deal here, I'll copy target, paste a new line in below it, and change this to projectile. There we go. So we've got our projectile as a new game item. Now we need to load in the texture for projectile. I'll copy the line where we're loading in the target texture and change this to projectile as well. So projectile.texture. Now we need the projectile texture itself, so projectile here as well. Alright. Now the next thing we should have to do is update it. So we'll jump down to the update section, call upon projectile and tell it to update. And then the last engine-related thing we should have to do with the projectile is draw it. So I'll jump down to the draw section, we'll call upon projectile and tell it to draw using the given sprite batch. Alright, that's engine stuff. Now, what mechanics methods do we need to look at?
Check fire is the first one.
Alright, check fire, which probably did some interesting stuff. So I'm going to go over to Canon 2, go up a little bit in the mechanics methods to check fire, and let's steal the code. Jump over to Canon 3, paste all of that in. Now, we don't have access to mouse buttons or mouse buttons.left, so we need to address this first. Again, just like we did with the player, we now have a mouse that we can get information from. So I can say if mouse.getState.left button, and then we need to compare that against something relevant. What is left button? Well, it's a button state. So if we say this is equal to button state dot pressed. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for the current mouse state left button to be equal to button state dot pressed. And since this line is now getting long, I'm going to take it and actually drop it down and split it between two lines. So right after the and, we'll do a new line. And look at the second part of the check, which we need to address. Again, we don't have any picture boxes, so we need to look at the actual projectile itself. So let me actually wipe that entire section out, the projectile box.bottom. Replace this with projectile.position. Now we need, instead of is less than 0, again we have to put in the origin, because instead of looking at the bottom, now we're looking at the center. So is it less than projectile.origin.y?
Now instead of just position, let's look at y.
Look at, oh I see, yeah, that would have been fun. We just want the y, and another thing is we're looking for to be less than...
That's okay.
Yeah, okay, that's right. One of these was negative, but that should be right. So where we need to be, if this was originally, say, 4 for the 8x8 projectile, so if we're less than 4, then the center is now 4 pixels off, we're completely off the screen.
Right.
Yay.
Okay.
Next, let's look at, alright, now the positioning. So once we've established that we need to fire, and we're going to reset the position, let's see, we have projectile X, player X, sure, we have a player X, that's fine. Y. Here we go with picture boxes again. We don't have picture boxes, so we need to address the player instead of the picture box. So we need to address player dot. Now what we were looking for in that case was the texture's overall height, the picture box's overall height. We do have access to that because we've got our texture, the texture 2D texture object itself, that has a height property. So we might as well use it since that makes a very nice replacement for the overall height of the player.
Mm-hmm.
And now we need to look at the projectile, which should be the same. Projectile.origin.y, yes,
yep.
That is all valid stuff for projectile. And then the rest of that was setting the position to being a new point using those variables, and all of that should be the same.
Yay, a new check fire that now works for Canon 3. All right, beautiful. So let's see, what did we have next? Check air collision.
All right, check air collision. So down to the collision section, let us steal that as well from Canon 2. So in Canon 2, we'll drop down to the collision section where we have check air collision. I'll take that check and put it into place.
And looking at it, with the exception of us not having a kill target at the moment,
yes, everything else should work.
Yeah, it looks good.
Position is still in the form of a point. Distance still takes in points. We still have our constant. All is good. We just need to temporarily comment out kill target. And to have a visual check on the fact that this is working, let's put in a call to reset target and a call to reset projectile, just so that once we get this put into place, we can see if it's working.
Exactly. Okay, so with that, let's get distance in place because, well, we need it now.
All right, and let's do the code stealing thing again. We'll go to utility methods in Canon 2, and we'll copy all of the code from distance back over to Canon 3, and take a quick look at it, and everything looks like it should work just fine because these are all local variables up until here. We're using the same points, so everything should be good.
All right, so now let's go ahead and turn our attention back to, or have we covered? Yeah, we've covered them all.
We've got it, because let's look back over the methods.
Wow.
The only one left, I think, is reset projectile.
Oh, okay.
Let's get that put into place. And that's very simple. Again, the idea, moving the projectile off the screen, so this one, well, we might as well steal it. I was just about to retype it, but everything should be the same. So let me copy, again, reset projectile from Canon 2 over to Canon 3, where we have a projectile, yes, it has a position, yes, we have points, and we have projectile.origin.
All right, let's see how good you were, Logan. Does it build?
Does it build? Indeed it does.
Wow. Does it run?
How about running? And there we go. The only thing that's not happening is the game isn't kicking itself off because, well, two things. One, we're never calling reset target. Two, we have the projectile on top of the target, but there's no air collision in place, so the target or the projectile can't kill the target to reset it.
Right.
So if we want to test the rest of the methods, I guess we could fire off the target with a call to reset target. Let's jump down. I want to do this after we load the graphics content, though, because I'm not sure. Some of that code was dependent on texture height, so let me jump in and put just a temporary call to reset target. And a comment, temp. Alright. Build, run, and there we go. We have the target running, and ooh, ground collision. So there are a few problems to fix.
So let's find out what's wrong.
As a matter of fact, I don't think it's so much something being wrong with ground collision, but the fact that inside of update we aren't calling collision ever.
Well, there you go. We're so good at leaving off these very important updates.
So let's check our ground collision every update and see what effect it has.
And all right, now no reason to even fire because we are not checking for any air collisions,
or even
checking the fire.
So before we check the fire, let's also check fire. So we had all these methods working, but none of them in use. Ooh, and check it out, projectile. Ooh, there's another good one. Okay, let's think about this for a second. I think I see what's going on, but let's trace back through it. It looks like it's not moving. We've done that in the past by setting our projectile's velocity to 0. So let's look at it. But no, we copied it. It's set to 12. Well, what we're not doing is we skimmed through the creation too quickly. We created the projectile, but we have never assigned it a velocity. So let's do that. Let's take our projectile, set its velocity, in basically the same manner we did in Canon 2, where velocity is equal to a new point. It doesn't move horizontally, so x will be 0. It does move vertically, so y will be negative. Projectile speed. Alright. Now, can we fire? Yes, much better. And collisions? Well, we're not checking
we're not
air collision.
checking for air collisions. Yep. That's great stuff.
Alright, check ground collision. I should have grabbed it. I saw it in the in IntelliSense, but I didn't grab it. So check air collision. Good. Now let's run. And there we go. Everything has been pieced back together. And the game should run indefinitely now because nothing is counting for lives.
Very good. So that right there is going to pretty much wrap up this section. We've got our mechanics back in place. Check fire, reset target, reset projectile, check ground collision, check air collision, distance. All of that's been set up. We've now got the target game item in play, and we've also got the projectile game item in play. And all of these things are now interacting. Absolutely beautiful. Of course, we're going to have to get kill target and kill player put back in, but that's going to be coming up here in just a few minutes when we get into our gameplay logic. So that is going to wrap up this video.